Kodak, the digital denial. We've all seen those grainy photos from the 90s, the ones with the red date stamp in the corner, the ones you had to wait 3 days to pick up from the drugstore. Now, let's be honest, in every industry there's that one giant that thinks the rules don't apply to them. They're so big, so dominant, they mistake their size for immortality. First up, the poster child for corporate blindness, Kodak. Picture this, 1975. An engineer inside Kodak invents the first digital camera. It's bulky, it's clunky, but it works. The company's response? They shelved it. They were terrified it would kill their film sales. They had the revolutionary technology in their hands, and they chose to hide it because it threatened their precious cash cow. They spent the next 3 decades watching digital cameras eat their lunch, before finally filing for bankruptcy in 2012. They didn't fail because they lacked vision.
They failed because they feared the future they could already see. Blockbuster, the late fee fatality. Remember that panic? Rushing to the store at 11:55 p.m. to return a VHS tape because you didn't want to pay a $3 late fee? Blockbuster was the king of the jungle. They had the inventory, the prime real estate, and the brand recognition. Then, in the early 2000s, a little upstart named Netflix approached them with a partnership offer. Netflix would run the online side, Blockbuster would run the physical stores. A beautiful merger of old and new. And Blockbuster laughed at them. They thought the internet was a fad, that people would always want to walk into a store and browse the shelves. They had the opportunity to buy Netflix for a measly $50 million. Now, Netflix is worth over $200 billion. Blockbuster is a meme. The lesson? It's not just about adapting, it's about recognizing that the game board itself is changing.
While Netflix was removing late fees, Blockbuster doubled down on them, mailing out their own DVD service way too late, proving that hesitation in the digital age is a death sentence. Sears, the catalog that stopped. Let's take a trip back to the golden age of American retail. Sears wasn't just a store, it was a lifestyle. You could buy a house from their catalog, a whole house. For 100 years, they were the Amazon of their day, innovative, efficient, and customer-centric. But then, they got comfortable. They looked at their massive physical footprint and decided that was their fortress. While Walmart and Target were optimizing their supply chains, Sears was letting their stores decay. They ignored the shift to online shopping, relying instead on their aging brand loyalty. The tragic irony? They invented the mail-order catalog, the very concept that Amazon perfected as e-commerce.
When the internet boom hit, Sears had the infrastructure, the logistics, and the brand trust to dominate the digital space, but they were too busy managing their real estate empire to see the digital goldmine under their feet. They sold off their iconic brands, one by one, until all that was left was a relic. BlackBerry, the QWERTY Crutch. Do you remember the glow of that tiny green LED? It was the status symbol of the 2000s. The BlackBerry made you look busy, important, like you were always closing a deal. It was the Crackberry for a reason. When Apple unveiled the iPhone in 2007, BlackBerry's response was immediate and arrogant. No one wants a phone without a keyboard. They were so convinced that their physical QWERTY was a competitive advantage that they missed the revolution happening right in front of them. They forgot that people didn't just want to email, they wanted to browse, play games, and watch video. Their consumer base, the everyday person, was begging for a toy, and BlackBerry was insisting on providing a productivity tool. By the time they released a touchscreen phone, the iPhone and Android had already built entire ecosystems. They were so focused on the hardware, they forgot the software. They became the poster child for a company that loved its own technology more than its customers. Polaroid, the instant obsolescence. Now, picture this. You take a photo and a white square spits out, developing right before your eyes. That magic was Polaroid's empire. For decades, Edwin Land's instant camera was pure wizardry. You could hold a memory in your hand in 60 seconds. But when digital cameras started appearing in the late 90s, Polaroid didn't panic, they sneered. They believed that people would always crave that physical, chemical print, that the experience would protect them. They poured millions into improving their film quality instead of building a digital sensor. They watched Sony and Canon shrink pixels, but they clung to their gooey dye diffusion process. By 2001, they had racked up massive debt and filed for bankruptcy. Their refusal wasn't about technology. It was about romanticizing their own past. They forgot that convenience beats nostalgia every time.
The iconic white frame became a coffin lid, and the instant photo turned into a museum piece. Toys R Us, the playground paradox. Geoffrey the giraffe was a beloved mascot. He represented endless aisles of plastic wonder. For a child, it was heaven, but for a business, it was a slow-motion train wreck. Toys R Us was a sprawling empire, but they refused to adapt their business model. They saw Amazon and Walmart as discount threats, not as existential crises. They refused to scale their online presence, believing that the experience of walking through the store was their moat. But the experience felt stuck in the 90s. They were weighed down by massive debt from a leveraged buyout, but instead of innovating to pay it down, they slashed maintenance. The shelves became empty, and the stores felt sad. They had the nostalgia, they had the brand recognition, but they lacked the agility to turn it into digital sales.
They tried to build a website, but it was clunky and a decade too late. They played with the idea of changing, but they were too slow. And in 2018, the doors closed. So, what's the common thread? It's not a lack of intelligence or resources. It's the arrogance of success. Every one of these giants had the power to pivot, but they mistook the status quo for security. The market doesn't care about your history. It only cares about your next move. If you enjoyed this deep dive into corporate history, don't forget to like and subscribe.